And the Tuesday, December 12th, 2023, Kingsport City Schools Board of Education business meeting is now called to order. And at this time, we'll have Dr. True to get us started.
Thank you, Ms. Woods. We are very pleased this evening to welcome three special guests from Dobyns-Bennett, members of the Dobyns-Bennett Air Force Junior ROTC unit. Two of them are going to come up and help us with the pledge here in a moment, but I'm also going to ask another special guest to talk to us a little bit about a special event from last week. So if you'd like to come up, we have Cadet Airman Lee Thompson and Trevor Thrasher, as well as Cadet Captain Mackenzie Howe. And Mackenzie, last week, you all had a pretty important week, a pretty, I guess, stressful week maybe. Tell us a little bit about exactly what went on.
Yes, sir. It was definitely stressful. We had about, say, 4 months worth of work going into it. So our unit inspection is when someone will come in and determine whether or not we're still meeting Air Force standards and running the unit properly, and giving students an opportunity to get involved in our unit. So we are now on our way to our 16th consecutive Distinguished Unit with Merit Ribbon, and that means that we have exceeded inspection standards. So over the past couple weeks, the leadership in our unit has been putting together a mission brief that we had to present to the chief, and we had to explain pretty much every aspect of our unit as far as activities, PT scores. So there was a lot of work that had to go into it. We also had to have drill and all these other things, inspection of our inventory. That one was fun. It was definitely a very stressful couple months going into it, but we came out with what we wanted. So when the inspector was here last week, what was he looking at? What did he do over the course of that day? So he checked our inventory for our color guard rifles, marksmanship rifles, and saber team equipment. He also did random checks over certain uniform pieces to make sure that our inventory and wings and what we had in stock was accurate and that it all lined up.
There was a drill involved as well. I had the pleasure of watching that. That was pretty impressive.
Yes, the 30-step is a drill sequence that all upperclassmen have to command. So our inspection standards is that a second year has to command a group of second years in the 30-step. So Jack Vinson was our person that commanded this year. He did a fantastic job. He got a couple of feedback remarks, but he took them on the spot and he learned to take it. So
last question. This was 16, which means you were on the kind of on the back end of 15 successful evaluations. Was that stressful? What was that like trying to maintain that standard?
I would be lying if I said that it wasn't daunting. The idea of being the first person to be the commander over the unit and not get Distinguished Unit with Merit, it was definitely intimidating going in. I was trying to limit my expectations because this was the first one after COVID, and no one in our unit had a real inspection before. Our vice squadron commander, she had been at South for her freshman year, so she saw a virtual inspection, but it was nothing like what we were about to go through. So it was very intimidating knowing that the first time ever seeing one, I was going to have to be leading our cadets through it. But we got through it. We got what we were working towards. So
very good. Well, congratulations on behalf of the Kingsport City Schools and the Kingsport community. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for your service, and congratulations on this exceptional award. We're very happy for you and very proud of all your work. Thank you. And if you would all please rise and face the flag, and we will say the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Well, thank you to all the representatives here tonight, and also thank you to Colonel Vogt. He does an amazing job. I heard retirement might be in his future. That makes me very sad, but we are so grateful for your commitment over the years. You really do an amazing job, so thank you very much. At this time, I'd like to ask for a motion to accept the agenda, which includes the consent agenda. Once the agenda is accepted, the board mutually agrees not to discuss any item of business or take any action that has not been accepted for the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Pre-approved members of the community may address the board regarding non-agenda items for a maximum of 3 minutes each, unless otherwise stated by the board. In your remarks, you may not refer to students by name without permission from the parent or guardian. It is not the time to speak about personnel issues, as there are more appropriate ways in which these can be addressed. In order to speak on a topic not included on the agenda, you are asked to submit your request in writing to the superintendent of schools at least 3 business days prior to the scheduled date of the meeting. So at this time, I think we have 2 people who have requested to speak, and we will begin with Mr. Jenkins.
Thank you for allowing me to speak this evening. I'd also, per policy, like to request my extra time so I can get 5 minutes instead of 3.
Actually, our policy states 3 minutes. But I tell you what, I'm afraid that your microphone may not be on, so we're going to, there you go. Maybe just, there you go. Let's try that.
Hello, check, check.
Yeah, we'll have him turn it up just a little bit, so I want to make sure that everyone can hear. We're going to start your time over, okay?
Check, check. Hello, check.
You're welcome to hold it if you'd like to. I always say they're magic. They're microphones. They're not magic, so you got to hold them up. Okay, there you go.
Bullying is defined as any action taken against another that creates an imbalance of power or a emotional or physical discomfort. And the reason why I bring that up is that I kind of want to know who decides amongst the administration at a school, who decides what constitutes a bullying incident. Because it doesn't really the policy doesn't necessarily seem to take that into account as far as like reporting the incidents and things like that. Who decides what constitutes a bullying incident? And I also want to ask about the consequences of any administrators or anything like that not taking the situation seriously, and if they're not following proper procedures. What happens if that administrator is not taking the proper procedures when it comes to reporting? For example, I feel that in my case, I have a case of a situation where, we're being bullied, we're dealing with a situation like that, and we never necessarily got any type of report that showed, what happened, what was done, things of that nature. So if something like that occurs, who's responsible? It doesn't really specify that in the policy. So I'm just kind of curious as to what happens there, because as parents, we should be informed. We should always stay informed and stay connected so we can work together to create a safe environment for our kids. So in order to do that, we kind of all need to know exactly what's happening, exactly what's going on. So when there's a report, who's responsible for bringing out that report? Who's responsible for getting that report to a parent if that parent requests it? And I also want to touch on the excuse me, questioning, as far as questioning students and things like that, I want to be there if something like that happens. I want to make sure I'm there. I want to make sure that my child is protected. And if, there's police involved or anything like that, I feel like I have a right to be there to protect my children. So, what's to prevent me from being there? Why am I prevented from being there according to this new policy? So I wanted to touch on those questions there, and hopefully I can get some answers to that. And I do appreciate you allowing me to speak for this time, and thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jenkins. And now at this time, we'll have Ms. Jenkins to come and speak.
Good evening. My name is Daisy Jenkins, and today I would like to talk about bullying. School is a safe place, or supposed to be a safe place, where children can come and learn about themselves and get an education. Currently, in the city of Kingsport, there are lots of children that are being bullied. I know there's a yearly report and that goes out. The cases of bullying, from my knowledge, just from social media and people that have reached out to me, your number is very low. And I believe, might have been 21, 22, there was supposedly 0 instances of racial bullying. That's flat out a lie. How do I know that? Because my child has been bullied for being melanated and brown. I have friends whose children are being bullied. They're being called the N-word with a hard R, and not like in a rap song. There are kids that are in the queer community that are being bullied. My own child, who is transgender, graffiti on a wall with marked out eyes, emojis, represents dead, called a pervert. In that instance, there were 5 kids took into the office, and supposedly nothing came of it. We never got a report. We never saw a piece of paper. I've asked for information, what was wrote up on this. Didn't happen. So if there's no consequences for administration to take this seriously and deal with these issues, then what are you guys really doing? I mean, you're not protecting our kids. If someone calls in a bomb threat, you're going to take the kids out of school. You're going to protect them that way. What's the difference between that and one child looking to harm another child in the school? We as parents, we'd like to see something done. We'd like to see, a new policy. According to 4.207, we have the right to have a say in what goes on with policy. We have a right to say what goes on with programs. That's policy 4207, and that is sharing of power and speaking up for every child. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Jenkins. And I know there have been some conversations with some of the administration, and of course we want our schools to be safe. We do not want to tolerate bullying in any shape, form, or fashion. And I'm going to recommend that you speak with Dr. Hampton, and he can speak to the procedures that are in place to make sure that bullying incidences are reported and they're documented, and that parents are aware of whether they are the person being bullied or the person committing the bullying. So it really isn't the time for us to have dialogue back and forth, but I just wanted to say that, and I highly recommend that you sit down with Dr. Hampton again and speak with him and maybe get a better understanding, and perhaps there's better understanding on his part as well. But thank you very much for being here. This is the time when members of the audience are invited to comment on agenda items. It is not the time to speak about personnel issues, as there are more appropriate ways in which these can be addressed. If you're not sure how to do this, please ask one of us after the meeting. In your remarks, you may not refer to students by name without permission from the parent or guardian. If you would like to speak on a topic not included on the agenda, you're asked to submit your request in writing to the superintendent of schools at least 3 business days prior to the scheduled date of the meeting. Now, if you would like to speak about an item included on tonight's agenda, please raise your hand. I request that you state your name and limit your remarks to a maximum of 3 minutes. Okay, and so seeing none, we are going to move on to recognitions. Our first recognition is going to be by Dr. Chris Hampton to a very talented artist from Roosevelt Elementary.
This time I'd like to invite Abigail Carrillo to come to the front of our boardroom, please. I'd be happy to escort you up, Abigail. I'm going to put you front and center so everybody can see you. I'll be right back in a moment. To our board and audience tonight, just to let you know that the Kingsport City School System every year chooses our Christmas card from the artwork of a student in one of our schools. And this year, we have selected the artwork of Miss Abigail. Abigail is a 4th grader at Roosevelt Elementary School. She is the daughter of Tanya Carrillo and Enzo Edel. And Abigail submitted a remarkable piece of artwork that we have adopted as our Christmas card. And in recognition of her talent and her effort, there's a couple of gifts that we would like to present to her, in addition to just recognizing her as an outstanding artist. The first thing we have for Abigail is we've made copies of 10 of her Christmas cards that she can have to send out to whoever she wants. I hope she will keep one as a scrapbook, just to remind her of this recognition and how very proud we are of her and her artwork, and also of her teacher, Miss Holly LaRue, who submitted Abigail's work as one of the exemplary pieces from Roosevelt. So I'm going to bring you her card. So when you open the bow, you'll see your Christmas card, and we have some envelopes there for you, okay? So let me give that to you. And in keeping with our tradition of recognizing the excellence that we have in our student artwork, we have taken one of her, we've taken her piece of work and we've had it framed and matted, and hopefully that's something that she'll hold on to and treasure always. So if the audience would with me, just congratulate Abigail. Smile big. We're going to take one more picture.
Abigail, beautiful artwork. We can't wait to see more artwork from you. What an amazing job. Congratulations. At this time, Mrs. Byers is going to recognize Becky Clark, the recipient of the Tennessee Recognizing Inspiring School Employees, the RISE program.
I am very honored to be able to present this to Miss Becky Clark. The RISE is recipient of Tennessee Recognizing Inspiring School Employees. Ms. Clark found out in November of this year that she was chosen as one of 2 employees nominated from the state of Tennessee. So she had to be nominated at the school level and go through, but 2 recipients from Tennessee earned this award. And she is now, she went to a presentation on December 8th to find out she was one of these winners. And now she's being considered for the RISE Award at the national level. The U.S. Department of Education will announce the national honoree and present the individual with an award in the spring of 2024. If I were her, I'd be very nervous, sitting on pins and needles for another 6 months, wondering if I'm going to that next level. But to be one of 2 in the state is still something to celebrate. The U.S. Department of Education invites the governor of each state and the chief executive of the District of Columbia, Puerto Rico, and all the outlying areas to nominate up to 2 classified school employees by November 1st annually for the Recognizing Inspiring School Employees, or RISE Award. Prior to May 31st of each year, the Secretary shall select a single classified school employee to receive the RISE Award for the school year at the national level. The Tennessee Department of Education, in coordination with the Governor's Office, selects up to 2 nominees from applications and nominations submitted by local education agencies, school administrators, professional associations, labor organizations, educational service agencies, nonprofit entities, private schools, and their representatives, parents and students, and community members. That's a really large group of people competing for this award. So the purpose of the RISE Award is to recognize and promote the commitment and excellence exhibited by full or part-time classified school employees who provide exemplary service to students. A classified school employee is defined as an employee of the state or any political subdivision of the state, an employee of a nonprofit entity who works in any grade from pre-kindergarten through high school in any of the following occupational specialties: paraprofessional, clerical, and administrative services, transportation services, food and nutrition services, custodial and maintenance services, security services, health and student services, technical services, and skilled trades. So lots of jobs, lots of people qualified, and we have one of the 2 people in our own district that won in the state of Tennessee, and I would like Miss Becky Clark to come and be recognized.
Congratulations again, Ms. Clark. Very much deserved. Very much deserved. And now at this time, we will have Mr. Tim Dean and Mr. Brandon Fletcher to come and present Kennedy Elementary School, who is an award named as the 2023 Blue Ribbon Lighthouse School. 2 alumni, I do believe.
Who's from Kennedy?
All the Kennedy people, come on up. Oh, get those howls up here. The coyotes, absolutely.
Oh, yeah. I'm actually a little bit nervous presenting this award tonight.
Like having to present to your teacher.
Yeah. I don't think any of my teachers. It's an honor, I know for me, and I'm sure it is, Mr. Dean, to represent the Board of Education and recognizing Dr. Janice Irvin, school principal, her faculty and staff, and most importantly, the students, in celebration of the John F. Kennedy Elementary School, Kingsport City Schools, for recently earning national recognition as a 2023 Blue Ribbon Lighthouse School from the Blue Ribbon Schools of Excellence for the 2023-2028 period. Based on the national validated assessment process, Kennedy Elementary has met the required criteria in the 9 performance areas of high-performing schools required for this prestigious recognition, and those are as follows: student focus and support, school organization and culture, challenging standard and curriculum, active teaching and learning, technology and integration, professional community, leadership and education vitality, school, family, and community partnerships. Indicators of success. In addition to the comprehensive review process, for these 9 performance areas, stakeholder surveys, interviews, and a 2-day on-site review was also completed. Kennedy Elementary was honored at the 24th Annual Blue Ribbon Schools of Excellence National Conference in Orlando, Florida on December 1st of this year. The school now joins a dynamic environment of educators across the nation to collaborate and network regarding best practices that enables all children to achieve through measurable academic achievement. Congratulations. Go ahead.
You know, when I went to school, I still call it Lynn Garden. I can't help it. And Westview.
It was difficult.
It was difficult. I can still remember so much and draw on lessons learned even at that school when it was called Lynn Garden. And I'm sure those great lessons are amplified and continued and grow exponentially because of all the hard work that you guys have obviously been recognized for. So.
Can you howl?
What?
Can you howl?
I can't have, not, we were Cubs. We were Cubs, Lynn Garden Cubs. Red and white was our color. But anyway, that was a long time ago. But thank you all and congratulations. I've been so excited about this for you all. It's so great. Thank you.
Time for the howl. Picture.
Pictures, all your crew? Yeah.
Coming too?
Brandon?
An incredibly special and unique culture at Kennedy Elementary. You guys are crushing it over there. Dr. Irvin, amazing job. It's really special, and I love seeing the tears flow down the cheeks with pride and gratitude for what they're doing at Kennedy. So great job, guys. Great job. Okay, at this time, we're going to take a brief recess. If you would like to leave, we're going to go ahead and head into the business portion of our meeting. So you are welcome to stay and have lots of fun with us tonight, talking about school nutrition services and such. But if you would like to be dismissed, you're certainly welcome. With that, we'll go ahead and continue on to business item 4.1, which is the approval of Kingsport City Schools Strategic Plan with Mr. Michael Hubbard. There we are.
Well, good evening. I'm very excited tonight to present to you our strategic plan presentation. and we will go through this. Please feel free to ask any questions as we progress through. I need to scoot up a little bit. There we go. Just as a reminder, we met as at the retreat this summer and been looking at the data very regularly and continue to look at the data, as you're well aware. But also we had a full day Board of Education data retreat not too long ago. So you know, we spent a whole day diving deep into the data. And from that, I think that you saw that we had 6 areas of focus that we wanted to look at specifically for the strategic plan. And just as a reminder, those are grade 3 ELA in math, or English Language Arts and Math, grade 6 ELA in math, and then Ready Graduate in biology for high school. So you see that we had an elementary, middle, and high school with 2 areas within each of those. The strategic plan metrics that we want to present tonight is a 5-year plan. We did include the baseline data over there to the right, just so you can see where we're starting from. The metrics that we have will place us in the top performing districts, at least within the top 5 to 10 performing districts in the state. Of course, we want to say that we will be looking at this annually. This is not something that we're going to sit on. We will readjust as needed, but we wanted to set the bar very, very high. Typically, the state uses a methodology where they do an algorithm or mathematical calculation. They will look at the amount of growth. It's called an AMO, or annual measurable objective, within that. But ours are much higher than that because we are trying to close that gap much, much quicker, and we want to be in that top performing echelon with the district. So those are the goals that we're aspiring for, and to be within those top performing districts within the state. Within that, I am not going to read all of these action steps at all to you, but I wanted to give you an opportunity to see all the different things that we are doing. What I did on this so that you can see this is, for example, this is a grade 3 ELA on the left and then the grade 6 ELA on the right. You will see some commonalities between this, but what I want to talk about is we are constantly looking at these as processes and the different action steps that we are doing, and it is very integrated. For example, just within the last couple of weeks, we are continuing to meet with principals for the quarterly data reports. We're looking at their progress towards the goals. We're looking at their progress not only from the first benchmark, we're in the midst of the second benchmark right now, but we're looking at all their progress and different data points in reaching these goals. So again, this is just a hierarchy, or excuse me, a high-level view into some of the primary action steps that are incorporated into our strategic plan. Same thing with our math. Again, I'm not going to read through those, but again, I want to talk about the integration that we have there. Again, this is all built into the processes, not only at the district level, but down to the school level. And all our principals could speak to this because we are meeting with them regularly. And again, looking at the quarterly data reports, we're looking at our data conference templates. All of these forms are feeding into the processes that we're utilizing. And then finally, for the high school, you see both the biology and the Ready Graduate there. Let me pause there to see if there are any questions that are related to the action steps.
Just one question. Item number 3, offering multiple industry, okay, I assume the IC then is industry credential, all down through there?
Yes.
Okay.
And I tried to spell that out.
I just answered my own question.
Yes. The state of Tennessee is very acronym heavy, and we tried to spell those out. The PLC, just as reminders, are professional learning communities. That relates back to the work that we're doing with Solution Trees. So again, this gives you some of the different action steps that are primary to us reaching our targeted goals.
And I'll add that these are all active action steps.
Yes.
These aren't things to be integrated at a later time. All of these action steps are in place currently.
Yes. So this was a slide that we had at our full day retreat, but I wanted to just go back. Again, on the left, you'll see the strategic plan. And what we talked about the retreat is the strategic plan focuses on your customer. And for our primary customer, if you look at that perspective, are our students within that. And that relates back to our goal 1. And we're going to look at the goals in just a second. But we wanted you to also be aware that that is not the only thing that we're looking at or measuring. All of our different key work systems, and you can look at those almost as an overarching look of your departments within that. And I provided some examples, for example, human resource, technology, student service departments, curriculum instruction or CNI. All those will be feeding in, some also to goal 1, but also into goals 2, 3, and 4. So we have more than those 6 metrics that we're looking at. We are looking at a myriad of different measures that we will be examining and working towards. And I want to go ahead and provide some samples for you so you can see this. Just as a reminder, I wanted to go ahead and also include the 4 district goals, with goal 1 looking at personalized opportunities for students. Goal 2 is recruiting and retaining diverse employees. Goal 3, aligning resources for the students and also looking at our learning environments. And then goal 4, engagement of our families and the stakeholders. So those are the 4 different ones before we dive into some of our strategic and key work systems. So let me give you a couple of different examples. We'll look at Mrs. Helfenstein, who is our literacy coordinator. If you look at that, what I want to do is focus especially on areas 1 and 3. Those directly relate back to the strategic plan. Since she is over literacy within that, we want to make sure that her first area of focus and her third one, those are directly correlated back to the strategic plan. The one in the middle there you'll see is the developmental reading assessment, or what we call the DRA. That is going to support kids as they get to the 3rd grade and will be participating in that test. So that is undergirding, and that's example of a key work plan that we would be doing. But again, hers are very reflective of what we're doing within our strategic plan. What we want you to know, what we also want you to know is there is a fine integration that is aligned between all of these. This is part of her evaluation, okay? So this is the work that she is doing. She is working on this weekly. We have, for example, curriculum instruction meetings that we meet weekly. These are the things that we are talking about. We're looking at the progress towards this. So this gives you an example of someone that has directly related targets to our strategic plan, and then also with a key work plan. This is another example. This is Dr. Holly Ford, who is over the elementary. So I want to start out with the second area of focus there. So you'll see she's going to be supporting the principals so that 100% of them reach, or they'll either meet or exceed their math and ELA achievement measures. Each of our principals have very specific goals that they have aligned and directed with Dr. Hampton. Within those, number 1, they have something that is going to relate back to the strategic plan. So for example, if they're elementary, they're going to be looking at grade 3 ELA and grade 3 math, okay? If they're middle school, they're going to be looking at grade 6 ELA math, okay? So that's part of that. A second area for them is going to be a subgroup goal. If you look over at number 3 for Holly, that one is one of the subgroup goals, students with disabilities. So hers is again directly relating to supporting the principals within that. And then there's a third area for all the principals based on, typically it's from the Tennessee Educator Survey or something, a particular area that they want to focus on. So the first area is going back to our solution tree and our PLC, our professional learning community work, and that is refining our processes there so that we can meet the different goals that are outlined in our metrics within our strategic plan. And all of these go back for her, for example, to goal number 1. However, sometimes they will cross areas. For example, I'll let you look at 2 of mine. For example, number 1, I'm looking at the benchmark data process, and again, it correlates back to what some of the things that Holly is doing, but also looking at the data conference form, looking at identification of needs, identification of specific next steps for improvement, addressing the achievement measures, and then ensuring fidelity to the PLC process. So that is going back to goal number 1 with the district. However, if you look at my second one, what we're looking at is approving the professional learning sessions and logging those things that we're doing internally. And that actually relates back to goal number 2 with the district. So you see that sometimes some members will have areas that will cross different goal areas.
So, I'm
Yes.
sorry, Michael.
No, please.
So if you look, if we had this down the organizational chart, it goes down to the teacher level essentially, right? And through processes of annual reviews and those kinds of things.
Yes.
This is kind of the baseline of what your big part of your discussion.
That's how we're monitoring the work.
Okay.
Yeah, and it is exactly what we're doing, and this is what I'm evaluated on. And this is, again, everything is tied back, and that's why I want to talk about and I love the word, sorry, I get made fun of a little bit with that, but I love the integration within that, because that's what I hate to say, have potentially been missing, is some of that integration work. So this is really exciting to see everything tied together, from our strategic plan to our E-plan, which is the district plan that we have to submit to the state, to, you all saw the TISA grant and things. Everything is aligned there so that we are focusing on the work that needs to be put in front of us.
Otherwise, it's just an administrative exercise, the whole process,
Exactly,
right?
Exactly. And I can't stress enough how much this is being monitored, I mean, on a continual basis. So when he was talking about those action steps of being live and at the forefront, we're looking at those every single day. And I'm not saying weekly, I'm saying daily we're looking at these. I wanted to show you one area outside of goal areas 1 and 2, and for example, this is Mr. Nash's within that. If you look at number 1, we're looking at the school safety assessments, and number 2 is focusing on transportation. So for example, these all relate back to goal number 3. So depending on the person and their work job, and that's some of the things that you brought out, Mr. Dean, within that, they're going to be reflective of those 4 district goals. But again, it will either relate directly back to the strategic plan or to our keyword plan. So it's going to have one of those focuses. And again, everything is going to go back to the evaluation processes that we have in place. So again, that is an overview of that. I wanted to pause there for any questions that you had.
Well, I'm very grateful. This is, I think, something that obviously there's been a lot of time and a lot of sweat equity put into this, but it's measurable. It's something that we can understand as a board. Sounds like that you have buy-in on the district and school level, all the way down to the classroom level, and so I'm very encouraged by this. It's nice to have this out here, and honestly, it's with pleasure that I ask for a motion for approval of our strategic plan. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Thank you so much. Keep up the great work.
Thank you. I appreciate you very much.
And I love to see the passion with which he speaks. He just lights up like a Christmas tree. Now, item 4.2, approval of budget amendment number 6. Mr. David Fry.
Good evening. Like this is our 6th meeting this year and our 6th budget amendment. 4 or 5 in a year. This budget amendment I'm presenting to you tonight is kind of a housekeeping issue or item. If you'll recall, at your last board meeting, the board approved the bids for the Lincoln and Johnson HVAC replacements. I was not here at that meeting. Dr. True sat in for me at that meeting. I was at a meeting myself where I discovered some of this information simultaneously as y'all were approving this. But one of the things that we had done in the bids for these 2 projects is that it was our intention to only pay for the equipment with ESSER monies out of these projects. Well, on one of the sessions I was in at the conference I was at, they threw a slide up on the screen that said if any ESSER monies are in a project, then the Davis-Bacon wages have got to be paid in that project. And I talked to someone after the meeting, and basically it was, well, the intent of that is to make sure that you don't circumvent paying Davis-Bacon wages. And I quite frankly said, well, that was our full intent. So I talked with some folks with the State Department, and they said, well, one solution around this is to identify some things that are in your current year operating budget that would be eligible to be funded with ESSER funds. And so I came up with a couple of items, and we talked through it. We actually had a Zoom meeting with Dr. Stringham and Dr. Smith and talked through some of these things with 3 or 4 State Department people. And we identified that we could fund our instructional design specialist and fund our teacher and our student computer purchases that are budgeted in the current year operating budget. We could pay for those items with our ESSER funds. So essentially, I'm recommending that we decrease the budget that we have in our general purpose budget that we have for our instructional design specialist and these computer purchases, and move those budgets to a fund transfer line to transfer those monies over to the project funds for these projects, and essentially replace the ESSER money with local monies in those projects. And so those projects will not have any ESSER money in them at all, and we will pick up these expenses with ESSER funds. So, like I said, I'm recommending that we decrease the budgets for these items in our general purpose budget, increase the budget for fund transfers, and move these funds over to our general project fund. And that should take care of the issue that I came across. So,
Okay.
be happy to answer any questions.
I think it's pretty straightforward. Hearing no discussion, then is there a motion for approval of budget amendment number 6?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Thank you,
you.
Mr. Fry.
Thank you.
And you can just keep rolling there.
Okay.
Item 4.3.
This item is approval of an agreement with the Northeast Tennessee Cooperative. This is a cooperative that has been in existence for a number of years amongst, I don't think it says on here, but 15 school systems.
Okay, sure.
A number of school systems in Upper East Tennessee. It's a purchasing cooperative where they solicit bids from food vendors and take advantage of the buying power of multiple school districts as opposed to just our district. There is a cost to be a participant with this cooperative. We've estimated the cost at slightly over $18,000. But we feel that we can recoup this cost through some savings in buying power that all these school systems have. I'll let Ms. Walker kind of give you a little bit more detail on that.
Sure. So it is 15 school districts, and they have a combined enrollment of 67,000 compared to our almost 8,000. So you can see the difference. I will also tell you that Kingsport is the only public school north of Knoxville that is not in a buying group. And I didn't realize that until recently when I was investigating this. I do network with a lot of the school nutrition directors that are in this buying group, and I get to hear about a lot of their opportunities from being in such a group, and I've listed it here in this memo. A lot of them say that this fee that I'm paying is really covered in commodity distribution, the cost savings, for example. They can get a case for $2.33 of a commodity item. I pay $4.76 for that same thing. When the state has extra trucks of commodities like blueberries, they will call this buying group and they get it. I'm left out. So, I mean, there's money savings there. And also they have more time for grant writing and different things. This saves our city time too, because there's a lot involved with procurement. And this fee that we're paying is paying a director that goes directly to manufacturers and drums up more competition between them. I don't know if you've noticed our bids lately, but we're kind of lucky to even get one vendor to bid on us. And they just put out a grocery bid and had 3 vendors show up at the pre-bid meeting. So they're getting better pricing. So you might ask how much. I did ask, is there an example of how much money you would save? And I did find out the last school district that joined NETCO was Cott County. And they did an evaluation of the next year, and they saved $90,000 in their groceries from being a part of this group.
Have we not been apart for any strategic reason?
Well, okay, so I will tell you.
Oh, I'm sorry, I probably got ahead of you.
No, that's a really good question. So back in the day, Mike Billingsley looked at their agreement, and he felt like at that time that it was going to limit competition. But since then, I don't know what's changed, but I can see where there is more competition. And Bart Rowlett did look over the agreement, and he approved it for operation. One last thing I'd just like to say is there's a lot going on politically in our state right now, and I kind of feel like I'm on this little boat. Please put me on the ship so that if they stop federal funds, which I will tell you that 39% of the federal funds that our state uses are for school nutrition. And I would really like to collaborate with my partners if we have to navigate that. So. All right, so with that said, do you have any other questions that I didn't cover?
Yeah, I'd like to know, I mean, obviously, it sounds like there's savings, but how are we going to track the savings? You can come back to us a year from now and 5 years from now and
Sure.
say, this did actually save us $90,000, or it only saved us $2,000, or it cost us $5,000. How are we going to
Well, I think
track
that we can look at what we pay. We have the same vendor. That's one of the benefits, that we're not going to have to change feed vendors, and we can simply look at what we paid the vendor this year compared to next year when we're in NETCO and also the commodity processing fees. I mean, we do a lot of the things that they do, except it's on a bigger scale. I'll have more opportunity to be like processed turkey or pork and only use what I need for this district. I can't do that at this level. Because it's just, for one, I don't have the entitlement funds. I can only spread them so far. But when you're in a large buying group, they have access to every commodity processing. So I could pick and choose. It's complicated, I will tell you. But it's just the opportunity. And I can just look at what I paid this year or in previous years compared to what I'll pay next year. And I think we'll see the difference.
Being married to a dietitian, I have to ask this question. Do you fear or anticipate any loss in quality?
No.
The same vendor.
Change at all?
Actually, honestly, we do a lot of the same things. We get a lot of ideas from each other, too. And no, I just pay more for what we do, yes.
Okay, any other questions or discussion?
All right, it may be unrelated, but my brain needs to put the pieces together. So if you're part of this cooperative, right now you said you're on a little boat and you want to be part of the ship. As you know, and I wish we still had it, as I know you do too, the free and meal plans for every child, in the system. Would this impact that at all, or no, where still doesn't matter? I mean, we didn't have it, but we don't have it now, but I didn't know if we would have a bigger power to offer the free lunches to the students under this agreement.
Honestly, there's some exciting things coming up. If we do not go away from federal funds, this is a federally funded program, and our CEP program that we're currently doing in 6 of our schools, the federal government has changed things so that we could put the whole district in that program. I wanted to come to you tonight and ask you if we could start that in January, but David and Andy and I have reviewed everything, and we feel like we should probably wait until next year. But that's something exciting that we feel like we'll be able to come to you and ask for approval for next year.
So we will qualify for
And you're going to find out
benefits.
soon, yes, you're going to find out soon that Sullivan County got approved, Hawkins County.
That was in the newspaper, actually. I read that in the newspaper.
And I wanted it to be us too, but we're going to be a little more cautious. And we do have 6 schools. Some of the ones that are jumping on board have never done the program. So there's some different things for us to consider. We are coming into Netco, there's, so,
All right.
yeah.
Any other questions?
I hope we're coming into Netco. Let's just say.
So if we agree and do this, we're obligated for a year, and
Yes.
it's easy in, easy out?
My
No-
understanding
no-
when I read the agreement,
Yeah.
so.
Okay. Well, with that, the recommended action then is to approve School Nutrition Services joining the Northeast Tennessee Cooperative for the 2024-25 school year beginning July 1, 2024.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Any against? Okay, I lost my train of thought. Okay, we're good. It's passed 5-0. Thanks,
Yay.
Jennifer.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, keep rolling, Mr. Fry.
We have another agreement, kind of a housekeeping item also. This is an amendment. Sorry. So we have another agreement for the board's consideration. It's sort of a housekeeping item. We have an agreement with ESS to provide our substitutes. Currently, in our early childhood programs, we are paying the contract states in that we are paying an hourly rate for those employees. We are recommending that we amend the contract to where we pay a daily rate for those substitutes in our ECLC program. It's not a change in the amount. So essentially, if you took the hourly rate that we're currently paying and multiply it by the number of hours, it works out to be this daily rate. So it's not a shift in the total amount that we're paying. It's just that we're now recommending that we pay these substitutes at a daily rate instead of an hourly rate. It's just caused some issues in the program that this is a solution to some of those issues.
What issues?
I'd have to ask Ms. Guthrie to elaborate on that.
One was to bring it to be more consistent with how we're paying our other subs, which is we do a daily rate, a flat rate for our teachers and our special education IAs. So to have consistency across the board with that. And when we go to an hourly rate, there's a online app-based clocking that has to be done, and that has to be done across the board by all subs. You can't just limit it to only that hourly group, and that created just a lot, process-wise, people were struggling with that. We were hearing a lot of feedback from both our schools and our subs with some frustration in that process. That's the only way they could clock in and out and do things like that. So we said, this is, we listened to the feedback and we said, okay, we don't want to frustrate people or make it harder for them to get paid. We just want them to get paid. So that's the goal, is just to simplify that process and smooth it out, was to go to a daily rate.
So now they don't clock in at all?
Right, we have sign-in sheets, they sign in and out, so we do know they're there. We have verification on site for that, so we know they're there, and we do have a process for that, but it's just not through like the app online clocking. It's if you're there and you do your shift, we broke it down into shifts on a daily rate based on this, basically the same rate we were paying hourly. So they're still making that same rate, it's just based on what shift they sign up for. In the early childhood, the early childhood centers run on different schedules than the regular school day, so it's a little more challenging sometimes to meet that.
Okay. Recommended action then is to approve addendum number 10, which changes the pay structure of the early childhood learning center positions from an hourly rate to a daily rate. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, thank you, Mr. Fry and Ms. Guthrie.
Thank you.
Dr. True.
Good evening. We're coming back to you again. This is the policy stack that will get us through our HR policies and get us very close to the finish line when it comes to all of the policy recommendations that were provided to us and for us to consider based on changes in law, policy, and our annual audit from the TSBA. So we have two policies to consider on first reading, two new policies, 5.106, application and employment. This is due to providing some clarity to our applicants and to our community, as well as a change in Public Chapter 222 that clarified what districts can look for and where we need to be looking for when it comes to individuals that may be on a list maintained by other states that would preclude them from being able to be considered for employment. 6.3041, Title IX and sexual harassment. This outlines our Title IX policies, coordinator, and procedures for how we would handle, again, providing information to our community. And this is something federally that we are expected to have on our policy books. And so 6.3041 would establish and provide clarity on what those processes are and who is responsible for handling Title IX complaints for students and then also for employees. And we have 5 policies on first reading to adopt, current policies on our books to be revised. 5.100 on personnel goals. This is due to the requirement that the Board of Education has to adopt a policy on educator diversity. And then what we have done is to, because we are required to set a goal for educator diversity, folded that into our policy language. 5.119, employment of retirees. Again, this is a law that was passed to provide more flexibility to school systems to hire retirees. We are not bound by some of the same regulations that were currently on the books due to teacher shortages and the ability to hire retirees for longer periods of time. 5.302, sick leave bank. Again, we did not have wording in our policy as to specifics when it comes to who may what the procedures are for sick leave bank, as well as there's been a change in law that says that employee children may now be eligible for an employee to take time off if the child is sick, and that is a change in law. So we've folded that into our current language. And then the last 2, 5.305, family and medical leave. Again, the major piece to this one is Public Chapter 399, which grants employees who hold a valid license and have been employed by a school district for 12 consecutive months, 6 weeks of paid leave after the birth or adoption of a newly placed minor child. And then physical assault leave, 5.307. Again, that's due to a change in law 3.403, which states that teachers receive full salary while on leave due to a physical assault. So we've changed our policy to reflect that.
Okay, thank you, Dr. True. Are there any questions on these policies? Okay.
I can get on my soapbox one more time about this. For those of you that'll be here next year, I know there's time crunch on these things, but we could easily make mistakes ramming policy through, hands full of policies through without having enough time to really dig in and discuss sometimes. I think things pop up and it worries me. I don't know what the answer is, Dr. True. I don't know how to, if there is an answer to making it more manageable. I mean, to some of these things you don't know what unanticipated consequences might be until you start kind of digging at it and talking about it and giving it some air. And I worry we're not, with so many at a time, we're losing that opportunity. And again, it's not like we're talking about making, widgets in some factory or something. This is people's lives, children and employees, and it just concerns me. Do you have any thoughts about that?
I absolutely, I share your concern. I think part of the challenge is the fact I kind of went back and did a little research coming out of the legislature last year and going into this year. We had 38 policy recommendations provided based on changes in law, changes in policy, and the policy audit. So being able to attack those and deal with those. Now, we weeded out, into the point of do we address all of them if it doesn't have to be a policy? A little under 30% of those, we identified 11 that we did not address because we felt it could be handled in other ways. So we do, go through that process so we don't come to you with all 38, but that still left us, 27 to deal with in a relatively short period of time. I think we're down to about the last 3. So being able to get those in a cohesive chunk, again, we did it by topic, to try and do that. But I share your concern. I think the challenge is when there is so much that comes out of the legislature, for instance, that we deal with, It's doing it in a timely manner and doing it in a way that makes sense and is cohesive while addressing your concern that there's just a lot to deal with.
And I realize a lot of them we have zero choice because they're passed down to us from state government. I get that. It's,
I guess
it's the ones that come from the TSBA, it's our judgment on whether or not we want to use that policy though, right?
Unless it's spelled out
Unless
in
it's
law.
spelled out in law.
Correct.
I mean, just because they hand it to us don't mean
Right.
it's good policy for us.
And for instance, based on concerns and conversation, we talked last time at the work session on 5.600 staff rights and responsibilities. That's when we pulled, and because we think we can handle it internally through administrative procedure. So, again, about 30% of those came off the stack because of that kind of a conversation internally. We try to do that so it isn't so onerous to have so many to have to deal with.
There was one policy we passed earlier this year that just referenced the.
What did you say? What?
There was a policy we passed earlier this year. I want to say August. And on the back, it was basically referencing like 4 state laws that had passed, and it wasn't cracked it into policy like this. It was just because the state's been busy passing copious laws that impact education system. So. I agree 100% that running through this many policies, I don't know, well, we probably have done this before, this number, but it's not common. But a lot of this is just the state being fast and furious here.
And it requires us to really, prepare before we come, and I think everyone has. And I appreciate, Dr. True, your effort in it of really looking very hard at and we appreciate your expertise and value it and lean on it to guide us through these. So thank you for weeding out the ones that can be weeded and presenting the ones that we need to look at. So thank you very much. Okay, so with that, the recommended action then is to approve these policies on first reading per Dr. True. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, thank you very much, Dr. True. And now we will move to our first quarter financial report. Well, hello, Mr. Fry.
Well,
It's nice to see you.
yes. So I have your first quarter financial update to review with the board this evening. And wish it was a better picture that I could paint, but I think we all knew what was coming with our revenues for this year. Just going down through some of our revenue items. Our TISA money, our state funding, we based our budget on the numbers that we knew that we had received in April when we approved the budget in May. When our final allocation came in late June, early July, it was $160,000 less than the amount that we had received a couple of months earlier. One of the things I'll point out with our TISA monies is that the fourth layer of TISA money, which is the outcomes-based money, we have not received yet. We don't know what that amount is because it's based upon some testing results from last year. So I know the state is working on those numbers right now. I think we should receive the information on what that number is going to be within the next, I would say, 3 to 4 weeks. So hopefully we'll have some outcome funding that'll come and offset what we're short here.
Is that why some of that data is still embargoed? Do you know?
I think that's more timeliness and preparedness.
Any word on that? Have you heard anything about?
The school grades we should be able to see those tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
And they should be released on the 21st. I think the 21st of December they will be released.
Just knew there was a lot of performance-based stuff in that second, that TISA money. Yeah. Thanks.
The biggest item is our county property taxes. We approved a budget in May based upon the assessed values and the property tax rates that had been in effect, that were in effect for last year. Subsequent to our budget approval, both Sullivan County and Hawkins County lowered their school tax rates. Sullivan County by 20 cents, Hawkins County by 23 cents. Now, we only have 7% of the kids in Hawkins County, so that's not a real significant impact on us. But the shortfall that we have the potential of seeing in Hawkins County is somewhere in the neighborhood of about $3.1 million. And the shortfall from Hawkins County is about $176,000. So, we have the very real potential of seeing a shortfall in our county property tax revenue of in excess of $3 million.
Which is directly caused by the Sullivan County Commissioners voting that.
Yes, yes. One of the other major revenue sources in our budget is our local option sales tax. And as the board well knows, we have in the past 2 years or so have seen tremendous increases in local option sales tax collections. We've received almost 26% of our amount for the year for the first quarter, which is good. So it's over a fourth. But it's not 10 or 12 or 15%. It's about 3%. And that's what our budget's based on, is a 3% growth in sales tax. So we're meeting our budget estimate in sales tax. But I would not look for us to see in excess of $1 million in sales taxes over our estimate this year like we have the past couple of years. I think we have the potential of meeting our estimate, which is what we should expect.
I think that was, to Mr. Golden's comment, at least the meetings that I attended, it was stated that sales tax would make up for this property tax decrease, and it obviously has not made up for it, not even close. So,
Are you saying the Sullivan County Commissioners had no idea what they were talking about?
well, I didn't say that.
Well, I'm saying
I'm
that.
just restating what was said in earlier meetings, per my understanding. And obviously, we are not making up the difference with sales tax.
Not during the first quarter. So that's our, our state TISA money, our county property taxes, our county sales tax, and our city appropriations make up 95% of our estimated revenues in our budget. So in the city numbers, I mean, those are numbers that we're going to get. So I don't have any issues with what we're going to get in city funding. Just to update you a little bit, it looks like that we're going to be a little bit short in our out-of-district tuition revenue for this year. Looks like we're on projection to get about $380,000 when our estimate's about $420,000. Our early childhood programs.
Mr. Fry, is
Yes.
that because we don't have as many as we did have tuition payers, or what?
That would be a result of not having as many tuition students this year as we had last year. Last year, we pretty much were hitting our $420,000 level, and based upon what we're billing for the first couple of months this year, I think we'll be down. Our early childhood programs, and we've discussed this previously. We're running a deficit in those programs. We budgeted a deficit for those programs, so we're really not in excess of the deficit that we budgeted. We have had a lot of internal conversations about our ECLC programs and what we can do as far as expenditures and rates that we charge for those services moving forward in the next 1, 2, 3 years, budget-wise, to bring those programs back to a more self-sustaining situation. So we're monitoring that. We'll be talking to the board more about that during the budget process and having some recommendations moving forward into next year's budget.
Mr. Fry, I just want to make sure I understand. So with our early childhood fees, I mean, it says it in black and white, but I just got to, we've only collected less than just under 20% of what we should have already collected for those fees at this point for this year. Is that, I mean?
Well, we've collected 20% of what we would collect for the whole year.
Should be 25%.
We should be somewhere in the neighborhood of 25%.
We didn't start in January, we started in August.
Okay, that was my question.
Yeah, so we've collected about almost 20%.
It's not that 80% of their fees are delinquent.
No.
I guess that's what I'm saying.
No.
Collected 20% versus 25.
Yeah. No, we've collected 20% of what we should collect for the entire year, and we're a fourth of the way through the year. So we are a little short, but no, we're not 80% short. Our after-school programs, on the other hand, they traditionally do have a profit in those programs, and they have a small profit at this point. Excuse me. We had some fund balance appropriations in our budget this year, just as a reminder that there were some appropriations, $910,000 for some one-time expenditures in our budget. I did want to point out a couple of things on our expenditure side. We budgeted some one-time funds. They weren't one-time funds. We budgeted some of our recurring TISA dollars for one-time expenditures, basically for capital expenditures. We knew that we were going to be having about $1.5 million of ESSER roll-off that we were paying for recurring expenses with. So we budgeted about $1.5 million for some one-time capital expenses. The ISM grant, we knew that we were going to be picking up some expenses in that. So we budgeted some more money so that's about $2 million that we had anticipated spending on capital projects that we have not spent. We knew shortly after our budget was approved, and after, for sure when the county commission approved the budget that they lowered the property tax rate, we knew that we were going to be $3 million short in property tax monies. So we have not spent those monies. So if you ask how are we going to offset the shortfall in county property taxes, well, right there's a couple of $1 million that we can use for that. Another item that we can use toward that is that also after our budget was approved, in the state budget approval, they approved monies to fund a school resource officer in every school in the state of Tennessee. The Kingsport Police Department, the City of Kingsport, has applied for and received that grant, and so that should help offset $640,000 that we had budgeted in our budget for school resource officers. So that should help. I don't think it will completely offset, because we have more than, like, for example, we have two SROs at Dobbins Benner. Well, the state's not going to fund two SROs at Dobbins Benner. So there, we may have to, but my point is on these expenditures, we have identified about $2.5 million worth of expenditures that we're not going to be spending that will go toward offsetting the reduction in property taxes. So I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
How often does the county revisit that tax funding, school tax? Is it annually?
Well, they approve a tax rate every year when they approve their budget. Now they have to meet maintenance of effort, just like we have to meet maintenance of effort. The way that they were meeting maintenance of effort last year with the reduction in county property taxes going to Sullivan County schools was they had estimated a large increase in sales tax. If we're not seeing a 20% increase in sales tax and we're seeing a 3% increase in sales tax, then
And how do they meet that? How do they meet the maintenance of effort if there's a shortfall?
Well, they'll have to meet it going into next year's budget. So, you know, if they're going to be several $1 million short in sales taxes this year, I mean, you know, they'll have to see how they're going to budget, what their estimate for sales taxes is going to be next year. I think there's a potential for some maintenance of effort issues.
Budget season's going to be fun.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank
You
you.
very much, Mr. Fry. Okay. Dr. Hampton, is there anything that you want to add here before we just talk about our next meetings?
As you can see, that we are quite busy in the work of the school system. I'd like to say thank you to everyone who spoke tonight and who speak each and every month in our work session or in our business meetings about the work of the school system. I think that they represent themselves very well, and it's important for us to, especially the board, to dig into understanding what that work is like, so that you can be responsive in supporting learning, the teaching and learning that goes on in our district. And other than that, just happy holidays and best wishes in the new year to our students and faculty and the whole Kingsport community.
Okay. Anyone else? I'll just echo that and say Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays to everyone. I hope everyone has a safe and enjoyable celebration with family and friends. And healthy, yes. My apologies.
Thank you for getting your way through it. I know
I'm
it's
so
how it
sorry.
feels.
My apologies. It has been something else. Our next meeting will be January 9th at 6 o'clock, and then we'll have a work session on the 23rd of January. We've got some legislative and legal institute training available in February, and before you know it, it's just going to be 2024. So if there are no other comments, we'll say this meeting's adjourned, and roll Tribe. Go to the band concert.